Hi guys, I'm in the beautiful suburb or area of Sea Point. Very beautiful guys. Only the rich stay here guys. Only the rich people stay here. This is how beautiful Sea Point is. It's simple but sophisticated. You know? Simple but sophisticated. That's the thing of places like Sea Point. You don't really see what's so special about it, but these are the special stuff about it. You see, you got the sea next to you, the clean part of the sea. So, Cape Town is a very windy place. So you discover that, like, Sea Point, what makes it so special from other places, that it's flanked by the Signal Hill. You see, so the wind don't come through to Sea Point. Away. So it's always flanked from the wind, because Cape Town is very windy. So you discover that the climate or the environment in Cape Town, in Sea Point, is more stable than most places in Cape Town. So that's one thing that makes Sea Point very beautiful. So that's the thing that will make the rich choose to build in this area. Or when they were busy selecting the area to build, it was because they know they are flanked by the sea. Another thing that really matters is, guys, water supply. The water supply in the area of Sea Point is not the same as the water supply you get from other neighbors. You understand? There's a reservoir right at the bottom of the Table Mountain. That reservoir supplies all the suburbs that are around Sea Point. You see? So, water supply also. The water supply is coming straight from the mountain. Fresh water. That's what you pay by staying in Sea Point. Fresh water, beautiful weather environment. You're right there by the sea. That's what you pay for. Security, definitely. It's a thing that we cannot even talk about. There's tip-top security in these areas. Tip-top ratepayers associations that keeps order in the area. Understand? So I'll keep on showing you Sea Point, but the main thing I would like to talk about, you discover that most of these properties here are owned by people who have built their world over time. You understand? Built their world over time, because just one apartment here can cost you almost like 10 million a month. 10 million to buy. So how is it that someone can afford to buy a property for an apartment, not a house, an apartment for 10 million? It's not really just because they buy, but it's just like it's compounded wealth. It's people who got compounded wealth. People who can afford to fork out 100 million, just like that. There are people who 100 million rands, just like that, because they got compounded wealth. So it brings me to the issue of wealth building, the issue of how do you become royal. You understand? How do you become royal, guys? Before I go deeper into this thing of how do you become royal, there's the issue of, like I mentioned, the issue of compounded wealth. Wealth that has been built over decades of wealth building. You know, people who are able to build their wealth over centuries, and they are able to pass on their wealth over centuries. You know, from one century to another, they're able to pass their wealth. The issue of wills, the issue of titles. You know, now you can understand these guys like Christopher Columbus, who go out of their way to look for wealth. You know, and they'll be so, let's call it, greedy about it. They'll be so greedy about it when they're doing this thing. You know, taking a country to their hands is not enough. They want the whole continent into their head, you know. You get like guys like Rhodes, Cecil John Rhodes, you know. A guy like Cecil John Rhodes, who went out to colonize the whole Southern Africa. That is from southern part of southern part of Africa to to the central part of Africa. One person colonizing. Those people who are wealthy, they normally say they got their mandate from above, that is from God himself. So these people, they view themselves as next to God. They have come so next to God, almost holy. You know, that's the royal people. They believe they are almost holy. You know, royal families, they believe they're almost holy. That's the thing about royal families. So how do you become royal? So there are three ways I can recognize how you can become royal. You can become royal by being born royal. You can become royal by marrying into royalness. You can become royal by conquering royal people. In other words, you take over their empire. So when you take over a royal people's empire, you actually become royal yourself. But what is so amazing is the belief that being royal is a mandate from God. So the people who are royal, they believe actually they've been appointed by God to be in that position. Like the British royal family, they actually believe that they got a mandate from God to rule their subjects. That's what they believe actually. So I don't want to delve into that, you know, because you need to understand also that the British royal family, they even got their own church. I can look also on the Muslim side. The Saudis, they collect the Saudi royal family, they control the Muslim church or the Muslim religion, because that's the kind of thing that they believe, that they got a mandate from God. But now I want to look into the other way of becoming royal, the other way of becoming of an ordinary person like me. If I really want to be royal, I can say at this point in time in my life, I've lost a chance of being myself royal, because to be royal, you first need to build yourself in the empire. After building yourself empire, you take that empire and you make it a dynastic empire. After changing the empire into a dynastic empire, you have to change it into now a royal empire, right? But the thing is, to be royal, you have to have a certain area that you rule over people. You must have subjects. That's one thing about being royal. You have to have subjects. So you have to have an area that you rule. So that leanings is almost amounts to situations where we get this, like almost like at a macro level gangsterism, you know. At a macro level, that's what we call like empires, right? So let's look at the steps that you can take to become royal, you know. So you can like start your own empire, you build your own empire. This empire, you grow it into a dynasty. The question is, how do you grow a dynasty? A dynasty takes time, you know. A dynasty, you can define it as an empire that is a wealth that is inherited over 3 generations. How old is a generation? One generation is equivalent of almost 20 to 25 years. That's one generation. So if you want to talk about 3 generations, you're talking about almost 100 years. So you have to be one bloodline, passing your wealth through one bloodline over a century. That's the kind of thing we're talking about. Passing your wealth over a century. That means now you become a dynasty, right? And then after that, that dynasty must be able to rule a territory over another 300 years, which is another 3 centuries. Then you become royal. That's how you become royal. You start off as a generation you turn it into a dynasty you turn it into a royal. So between moving from being, let's call it a peasant, into a royal person, it takes almost 400 years. It takes almost 400 years to become royal, you know.